Niue invited into PNG's job market. Clerk of Parliament goes to court to contest his suspension. And a warning that TB cases are on the rise in Morobe.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Wednesday's news. Thanks for your company. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has offered Papua New Guinea support to assist Niue develop its human resource by offering jobs in Papua New Guinea to Niueans. Speaking last night in Port Moresby, the PM told Niue's Premier, Toke Tufukia Talagi, that he would like to see Niueans gain skills which can be used in the small island nation.
Niue is not widely known as a prominent economic partner to PNG, but it is, however, a member of a group of small island states in the Pacific who've been vocal on climate change issues, global energy prices and labour mobility. The arrival of Niue's Premier in Port Moresby is crucial for this small island nation's relationships with larger countries around it.
I believe that in fact we should be working very hard as a region, and this is part of the reasons why the forum is so extremely important, to ensure that we look at our own economic development using the resources that we have.
Already, Papua New Guinea has extended its hand to help and has sought support from Premier Toke Tufukia Talagi. Labour mobility for Niue is important for their economy. The PM has asked for freer movement of Papua New Guineans seeking jobs in Niue, while offering the same labour mobility to Niueans who wish to come to Papua New Guinea.
With Papua New Guinea's growing economy, the O'Neill government is now using that spending power to assist in various projects in the Pacific. Fiji has already received support for its first democratic elections in many years. Solomon Islands has an ongoing scholarship program funded by Papua New Guinea. And now Niue will get 5 million kina to help build a new Parliament House. Scott Waide, National EMTV News.
The suspended Clerk of Parliament, Vela Conivaro, has appeared in court this morning in part of an ongoing case seeking a judicial review over his suspension by the NEC. He was suspended of allegations of misconduct in office in August this year. EMTV's Sarah Alpong reports.
The court heard this morning that the NEC suspended Conivaro on the 7th of August this year following the referral of the Speaker of Parliament, Theozure Nuo. The Speaker had received reports of allegations against Conivaro, such as tampering with draft bills and the misuse of funds. Mr. Conivaro's lawyers argued that due process was not followed in his suspension and that the decision was unreasonable, biased and harsh. He argued that Conivaro was not allowed the right to respond to the allegations before he was suspended and now awaits a tribunal by the Chief Justice.
With respect, the Speaker had put in place a private investigation committee which investigated, came up with a finding and referred those to the Speaker. Speaker went ahead and referred them to the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister sponsored a submission to the NEC. NEC made a decision without properly considering and meaningfully giving consideration to his responses. So,
allegations have been made. I will face it on another day when it is. I have my day in court. But other than that, the processes used in regard to crucify important constitutional office holders or government administrators must not be taken lightly.
Lawyers representing the defendants argued that Mr. Conivaro was given time to respond, which he did when he responded to the allegations raised to him in writing by the Speaker. This decision is not unreasonable, they argue, because of the nature of the allegations, and it is not harsh because while Mr. Conivaro is suspended, he is still receiving his full salary.
We put our client's best case forward. Now it's up to the judge to make his decision, and whatever the decision is, we'll take it on from there.
Justice Colin McKyle, who heard the arguments this morning, set the date for the decision to be handed down on the 23rd of this month. Cases of leaders are also coming up before the courts, as just yesterday Gulf Governor Havila Kavo was sentenced to serve 18 months in prison due to misappropriation of funds. Sarah Aupong, National EMTV News.
Papua New Guinea is now seeing significant progress in the upgrade of its major infrastructure assets. This is thanks to development partnerships like that of the government and the Asian Development Bank. At a forum organized today, ADB said while significant progress has been made in 2014, more remains to be done to assist the PNG government achieve its development goals.
In the nation's capital today, the Asian Development Bank hosted a forum where updates were given on ADB projects and programs. There were presentations also on the challenges and opportunities that will be faced by the government and development partners in 2015. ADB PNG Country Director Marcelo Mink announced that the Leh Port Tidal Basin, the largest and one of the most complex projects ever undertaken by the ADB in the Pacific, was completed. He commended the Independent Public Business Corporation for its part in the project. Mr. Mink attributed the successes of such projects to some key factors.
Alignment of our projects, our activities, our programs to the government priorities. This is extremely important. Number two is our sector and geographic focus. As we mentioned, we focus on the sectors where we think we have some value added, where we can do our best.
Managing Director of the Independent Public Business Corporation, Wasantha Kumarasiri, acknowledged the ADB's support in assisting state entities with the massive infrastructure development programs.
The partnership with the state is very important because, as we all know, there are various sectors of infrastructure that needs development. Today, the economy is going through a transformation, and this period is extremely critical to get this basic infrastructure right.
As of November, disbursement of ongoing ADB projects in PNG in 2014 is estimated at 120 million kina. PNG joined ADB in 1971, and as a long-term development partner, Mr. Mink said ADB is looking forward to making this partnership stronger in 2015. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
A group of soldiers from the PNG DFC elements have been undergoing training geared towards curbing illegal activities at sea. The training, supported by the Royal Australian Navy, is happening amidst ongoing concerns over asylum seekers and illegal fishing in PNG and Australian waters. EMTV's Mickey Cavera was on Her Majesty's PNG ship, the Lucky Camel.
The PNG DF Navy for the past 3 months has undergone various trainings with the Royal Australian Navy. Yesterday, crews on board the newly commissioned HMPNG's Lucky Camu did the same. Lieutenant Colonel James Carroll, commanding officer of HMPNG's Lucky Camu, emphasized the need for more training of naval personnel both domestically and abroad.
We have 2 purpose-built modules on board, meaning we can embark 12 trainees at all times to conduct their training and sea familiarisation.
Much of PNG's maritime borders are left unattended to, making it prone to illegal activities. Last month, several illegal fishing vessels from Thailand were impounded in Western Province by the crew on board HMPNG's Siedla. Carroll says though there are issues with vessel numbers, crews can only be motivated to carry out their duties if given the right support. HMPNG's Lucky Camu will be used as a training ship. It is the first to have a name from the Gulf region.
Camu it's the name of a big river that the Australians used during the Second World War to transport personnel and logistics up the river to help build Bulldog Trek.
It currently has 15 crew members on board, 12 are Papua New Guineans and 3 Australians.
We have a new ship added on to our fleet of ships in the PNG Defence Force. That will really improve our men's morale, and that will be the ship also being utilized to train our maritime officers and crew. And so this is an added capability, to the maritime element, and really assist PNG Defence Force.
Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Members of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force are being urged to be law-abiding citizens. Retired Commander of PNGDF, Ted Diro, made these remarks following the standoff between the army and police on Saturday. He says these institutions are crucial to the country and should be adequately supported by the government to ensure order and discipline is maintained.
The brawl between the army and the police at the weekend left many people questioning the level of discipline within the two forces. However, retired commander of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force, Ted Diro, pointed out the disciplined forces alone cannot set the trend for proper conduct. He highlighted that disciplinary issues experienced outside of their domain is a reflection of the type of leadership at all levels of society. He says PNG is still going through a transition phase and such behaviors experienced by disciplined forces will take time to change.
The society is not right. If the leaders are not right and if institutions are not right, then why do you expect servicemen to set the trend and to set the mood for proper conduct? No, it doesn't happen like that anywhere in the world. Everyone has a duty and responsibility to make sure that there is a proper sense of conduct, there is a sense of rule of law, and that there is a sense of obedience to the values that we have enshrined in our society.
He raised concern that not enough support is given to the two forces. The army, for instance, is being put under immense pressure from the government to increase its manpower to 5,000 by 2017.
The issue is proper equipment, proper training, and the proper discipline to try and combat the changing world of threat perceptions that are facing Papua New Guinea. So that is, and that has to be mixed with the nation-building activities, so that defense's relevance is experienced and seen by the people of Papua New Guinea.
As a result, new recruits have been trained for only 3 months, unlike the previous 6 months. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
The NCD and Central Divisional Police Commander, Jerry Frank, has urged police personnel in NCD and Central not to abuse the police uniforms. His comment comes after following an increase in number of pictures showing police officers posing with alcohol on social media. Frank said police uniform is the pride of the constabulary and should always be worn with respect.
Please, if you are indulging with liquor, don't think of getting your photographs taken by your comrades, because you never know. Your comrade might be put in for a good time, but if it gets to social media, you're up for it. And for that matter, as the commander, I will not tolerate. If you are you're socializing, please do not abuse the proud uniform that I wear for over 30 years. And some of those officers who have now joined the family of the constabulary, please respect the uniform that we wear.
Concerns raised over human trafficking. I'll bring you that story and more coming up after the break. Stay with us. Thanks for your company and welcome back to the news. One person is dead following a clash overnight at 41 Mile in the Makam Valley in Morobe. Fighting was between 4 truckloads of people from Kompri in the Eastern Highlands and people from Chivasing in Makam. It follows a compensation demand laid during the PNG Games after an Eastern Highlands vehicle was stoned. Traffic was disrupted for several hours due to the fighting. Statistics gathered by health clinics in Lae have shown an increase in the number of reported TB cases in the province. Part of the blame for the spread of the disease is leveled against poor hygiene involving buai chewing and spittle. Health personnel say unless this bad habit of buai chewing is taken seriously, TB will remain as the 3rd cause of death in the country.
According to the World Health Organization, at least 62% of deaths are caused by tuberculosis and other communicable diseases in Papua New Guinea. Much of the blame has been attributed to the habit of buai chewing. In Morobe, statistics estimates gathered over the last 8 months have shown an increase in the number of TB cases. Those are records coming from smaller health clinics in the province of people who go to seek treatment. Those who don't go for treatment remained unreported.
One of the biggest things about TB that we try not to do is to we tell people not to spit. Okay? And you know that everybody that chews betel nut, it's the one thing they do in quantities, copious quantities. You can drive down the road and if you've got a bus in front of you, you'll just see stuff going out of the window all the way.
While much talk has been on TB awareness, the Engau's acting Chief Executive Officer Dr. Jim Abrams says the habit of boy chewing has a serious implication on addressing TB in the country.
That's a betel nut problem, but it's a bigger problem if that patient also has tuberculosis, because they're then spreading tuberculosis by actually spitting, right? So yes, the link between betel nut, chewing, and spitting and tuberculosis really compounds the problem of tuberculosis.
The national government, meanwhile, have invested several millions in plans towards the fight against TB in the country. But health personnel say it may take several years to contain the problem, especially when boy chewing is a common practice in most of PNG societies. Colleen Barilai, National EMTV News, Leh.
An officer of the Legislative Council says there needs to be more education and awareness on human trafficking in the country. Alice Juana, a participant in the International Voluntary Leadership Program, said this after attending a 2-week program on examining global human trafficking.
Papua New Guinea is realizing the need to combat human trafficking. With the legislation on human trafficking passed in Parliament in 2013, there are also other avenues that can be taken to prevent it. Alice Juana presented her experience on how human trafficking is being addressed in the US and recommendations on how PNG can address this issue.
We can't say it's not happening in PNG. Human trafficking is happening in PNG, but maybe not at the greater scale that.
Under the United States International Voluntary Leadership Program, Alice participated in a 2-week multi-regional project examining the global problem of human trafficking.
So there's awareness raising and also educating the law enforcement agencies so they understand what they're dealing with and the nature, and if these officers who are trained and are knowledgeable in this area can investigate and prosecute these cases, then we will have some results of seeing cases getting prosecuted.
In a report conducted by the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime this year, it indicated that 1 in 3 victims of human trafficking is a child, most often a girl. It also acknowledged that while most countries have adopted national legislation to contemplate the crime, the number of convictions is still very low. The aim now is to educate the country on human trafficking and establishing effective systems to fight the crime.
Go down to the communities, raise awareness and help them to understand what human trafficking is and what happens in a situation of human trafficking.
Although the government has passed the legislation, much still needs to be done. Judith Kasek, National EMTV News.
The number of children without connections to their biological parents and relatives at the Cheshire home in Port Moresby has become a worrying concern, and the centre is working on a new strategy to help identify parents and make connections with these children. This was revealed at a recent charity visit.
Manogaigo revealed that some children at Cheshire Disability Centre didn't have any connections with their parents. The centre has 21 residents with special needs. 16-year-old Soma Chevry is one of those who greets visitors with smiling face. She came as an infant and made Cheshire a home. She has 6 friends who live with her. Manogaigo said people with disabilities continue to face enormous challenges in realizing to their rights to health and rehabilitation support and access to educational and livelihood opportunities.
One of our tasks is that for the residents or the service users that we look after here, our task is to try and relocate their biological families Because from out of the 21, we only have 5 or 6 families who come and visit their child.
The organization in its strategic plan is working to ensure these children are reconnected with their parents and their place of origin.
Okay, yes, we have a inclusive education resource center here for children with special needs, and it's called an early intervention class. And we also have a class for children without disabilities. It's called an early childhood class.
The organization is also trying to implement a plan, but there are many challenges. Limited funding has always denied access to engage in long-term development plans for persons with disabilities and their families. Limited resources to keep the program effective and improve the management system and infrastructure development. Jacob Niru, National EMTV News.
The Institute of Banking and Business Management today graduated 46 students at the Institute's 61st graduation ceremony. The graduates were from various banks such as BSP and ANZ, including the resource sector. After 49 years of establishment, the Ministry of Higher Education accredited IBBM along with 4 other institutions as an Institute of Higher Education.
The Institute of Banking and Business Management will celebrate its 50 years of establishment next year. In recognition of the milestone, the Institute will offer a 50% discount for training fees all year long for all female IBBM trainees. This will be valid for both PNG and Australian programs.
This is a special initiative from our chairman, Governor Loy Bakani, and the board of IBBM. They have decided for gender equality and for gender balance. They have decided that next year, 2015, all our women candidates would be getting 50% discount on all training fees, on all courses which are conducted at IBBM, whether they are IBBM PNG courses or our Australian MBA program or our Australian diploma program. Across all programs, all women will get 50% discount.
Today, the institution celebrated another milestone. The 46 participants graduated in various diploma and certificate courses, including diplomas in banking and internationally recognized ISO certificates, as well as Australian graduate certificates. The government is now recognizing the IBBM as an institute of higher learning.
So far we were taking professionals from banking, finance and microfinance industry and providing them industry diplomas, and that was accepted very well. But now with this accreditation we should be able to participate in the national selections next year, and we should be able to take year 12 leavers, school leavers as well, and that will be a very big step for the institute and for the school leavers to be able to participate in an institute which provides professional diplomas and certificate courses for banking, finance and microfinance industry.
Leanne Jarari, National EMTV News.
Networking and communication is vital for building up the stamina of women in business. This was one of the key lessons learnt by participants of the recent Pacific Women in Business Conference held in Fiji. PNG was represented by close to 20 women who are owners and managers of businesses in their own right.
The participants had only positive things to say about the second Pacific Women in Business Conference.
Really inspiring to hear very successful women who have gone through very similar challenges as we do as women in Papua New Guinea. And yet, despite all that, you see them building big businesses, and they're in the export and import trade as well.
As a jeweler, Arere Oroki urged local pearl farmers in PNG not to export all their pearls overseas.
I would like to be able to access some pearls from them because there is a large market for it. I would like them to at least put at least a third of it, something for the Papua New Guinea business people over here.
Executive Director of the PNG Women in Business and keynote speaker at the conference in Fiji, Janet Sape, said she spoke about the journey and achievements of the region's first women's microbank. She said there was wide interest in setting up similar women's microbanks in the 14 Pacific Island countries.
We put recommendations through the MSG, through PIPSO, to take to our national Pacific leaders to support women in business. So one of the agendas is, of course, for the Women's Bank to go to their countries, because this is something that the Pacific women have made to suit themselves.
An invitation has been extended to interested businesswomen in Port Moresby to be part of a business women's meeting this Saturday, the first of many to come. It will be held at the Match Girls Resort and transport will be provided at the Jack Piddick Park.
We are determined to bring women out of their shells, out of wherever pockets of places, areas in Port Moresby that they're doing business. We want them to come out and we want to know who is who. Our main agenda is to promote tourism, one, and number two is for the women to have a slice of the cake of the SP Games spin-offs.
Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.389 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, a Euro kina was buying $0.3815 $0.4558 Australian dollars, $0.3049 euro, and 45.17 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, and cocoa closed higher, and copper closed lower. Palm oil closed lower, while crude oil and copper closed higher. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 51 points lower, the ASX closed the day at 23 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 21 points lower. Huon Gulf opens a new district headquarters. I'll bring you that story among local news coming up next. Stay with us. Good to have you back with the news. Huon Gulf District in Morobe Province will now have its own district headquarters at Wampar LLG outside Lae City. Today saw the groundbreaking